Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys how to draw eyes today. So first you start with the circle. All eyes start with the circle because the eyeball is actually really round. Then you make that layer very light and you go over it with the sort of like a C shape that is very elongated, and you add in the corner of the eye. For a wolf, the corner of the eye is a lot longer than a person's, and you add the eyelashes, and this is going to be a female wolf, so her eyelashes are going to be a little bit bigger and she's going to have a thinner eyebrow. You got to be careful not to make the eyebrow point up too far or down too far, because if you do that, the emotion could be totally off from what you're trying to portray. And then you go and you add the pupil and the iris, which are the pupil is what actually shows you the light, and the iris is the actual color. And then when you see that it's fine enough to become line art, you turn it into line art. See, this was easy to do because eyes normally you don't have to worry about doing a sketch for them. Then you go and you color to add personality to your character. And I've decided that she would look good with a cream sort of base because she's going to be sort of a bright, very sarcastic character. And I added sort of neutral tones to highlight that fact. And sometimes whenever you're with Photoshop, you might run into the problem as I did there with if the colors are too similar, then when you try to do the bucket fill, it highlights the entire color. So you might have to do it by hand. And then I'm going in and I'm adding a very light underneath of the shadow to show highlights. And there's the actual fur color. It's pretty much all that you can do for that. And then I'm going to go on to the actual eye part after I finish up touching up some of the eyeshadow type thing to make it look more like the style that I want. Now for the shading, you want to make it sure you remember that the eyeball is curved, and then they have the cheekbone and the forehead, so you got to remember to let the light play off of that. Like when the eyebrow comes in to the eyeball, you want to make sure that it shows that the shadow goes out farther, and then when it goes around the eyelid, that it goes back more and then it comes around. And when you're doing the whites of the eye, you want to have a sort of off-white, more of a bluish color, and you'll find that you'll be really happy with that. And then I'm going for her color a sort of sea blue-green type of color, and then you do the highlights, and you want to make really light highlights and really dark shadows, like I'm doing right there. It makes the eye pop and puts more emotion into it. And then afterwards, you want to sort of blur it together to blur the eye colors because it is anime and not realism. Then you go with a really, really, really light version of the color, like a white sort of, but not white, and you go and you do the highlights and like a streak to show where the light is coming from. And then you go and you touch up that a little bit, maybe smudge it a little bit, gives it more of a shine to the eye to make it feel more realistic, like there is something there, like there is a sort of like something behind just a painting of a eye. It has emotion. You want to make sure that it has that, and that emotion sort of like a sarcastic sort of glance, somewhat a little bit sad.